Hello everyone, I'm Alicia. For this tutorial, I'm going to show you guys how to make some beautiful jewelry using beads from Czech Beads exclusive. Right here is their website. I will leave a link for the website down there in the description bar. Now if you guys remember, I did a haul on the beads that I got from this place, and they have really great prices. They have rare beads that I haven't seen anywhere else, and this is what I made with them. So, remember I told you guys about these Nautilus beads they have? I've never seen them anywhere else. They're so cool. Well, there's 4 in a pack, okay? So I got the green ones with the bronze on it, and I also got a pack of the blue ones that have this purple color on it. They're really pretty. And I made a ring. Because there's 4 in a pack, I decided to do 3 of them in this necklace, and then the 4th one I turned into a ring. Look how cool this is. So that's what the bottom looks like. Here's my ring band. And I did a different ring band. I don't normally do this kind of ring band, but I thought it would be really awesome on this ring, and I love how it turned out. So, these Nib-Bit beads are also from Czech Beads exclusive, and so are these right here. These are called Halfmoon Crescent beads. It's like half a circle. It's not like the regular crescent beads. They're different. It's more like half a circle, I would say, than the regular crescent beads. So I'm going to leave a link for the beads that I'm using for this down there in the description bar below this video. So I also turned these into little components for my necklace. And what I did, when I went to wire wrap them, I realized that I needed a bead in that gap right there, because if you see, there's a big gap right there. So I took an 8/0 seed bead, slid it on my wire, did my wire wrap loop, and I did the same on this side, 8/0 seed bead and the wire wrap loop, because you can't really do the wire wrapping if you don't have a bead there in that little gap. And that's what it looks like. And I love that it's double-sided. It looks the same on both sides, so if it flips, it does not matter. It's awesome. Now, when I was first making this, I thought that I would string it, and I strung it with these beads and these in between, so it was like this, and I thought it looked pretty, but I felt like it could be better looking, so I decided to do chain. Now, if you remember, these beads right here, these Picasso Rings, I also got from Czech Beads exclusive. Here they are. Right there is the product number for them. They come in multiple colors. There's 50 grams in a pack. And there were also other ones there that I didn't get that are similar to these. They're like transparent Picassos. They're really beautiful. And I decided to do some bronze rondelles in between them, and I did a 4mm round on the ends. I got these 4mm rounds from Lisa, and thank God, because it really helped me out with this. And I just did wire wrap loops, and I love how that looks right there. That is so pretty. I love those colors. And the chain I got from Michael's, and I wish I bought more of it because I'm almost out of it, and I've already used it a couple times in projects, and I really love it. And this necklace is gorgeous. It's a long necklace. I just need a top to wear it with. It's so pretty. Okay, so I did a ring and a necklace. And remember, I bought more of them because I wanted to do it in different colors. And this is what I'm working on now. So this is done with chain, and when I was working with these, I wanted to string them. So I decided that this color would look better strung because I have beads that go better with it to pull it together. So this is what I have going on in this one. Okay, so these little ring beads here, when I bought from Czech Beads exclusive, I was looking for some to match this, but I think they didn't have them in the 10mm. These were 10, and I wanted to get them in the 10. I don't know if they were just out of stock at that time that I ordered from them. It's been a while since I've ordered from them. They probably have them in stock now, but I think I only found 8. I don't know, it's been a while. So anyways, I went through my bead stash, and I found that I actually have some of these little rings that are Czech. These I actually got from Michael's in the bead gallery. And there is a lot of them on a strand. And I have a 4mm full Labrador, that's the color bicone. And then I have my donut, and then a rondelle, and then my little donut or ring, and my bicone. And when you push them together, do you see how that bicone sits inside of that little ring? It looks really nice. And then I have an 8/0 seed bead. I have this faceted bead here that has this really neat band of color in the middle. I'm not sure where I got this from. It was either Michael's or Joann's. And then I repeated the pattern, okay? And I have an 8/0 seed bead up there to break up the pattern. And then when I put my big bead on, my beaded bead, I realized that I again need to put an 8/0 seed bead in there to fill in that gap. But this time I did two because my bicone was trying to go in there and I wanted it to stand out. So this is what it looks like. Because if I didn't put those 8/0s there, that bicone would just disappear. You wouldn't see that pattern. So I just repeated this pattern. And I have this pretty necklace. And I'm going to do it, my plan, I'm going to string it like this. And for the rest of the necklace, I've decided to do a chain. I like doing this. I like stringing beads on the front and the rest having a chain in the back. So I found this in my stash. I believe I got this from another necklace that I took apart because these clamshell tips are telling me that. And so is the extender in the middle. But I really like this chain because it's soldered. It's my one of my favorite Rolo chains. And the links are soldered shut. They don't open. So I'm going to be using that on the rest of this necklace. So for this tutorial, I'm going to show you how to make this little beaded component. I'm going to show you how to turn it into a ring. And I'm going to put it in this necklace. And I almost forgot to tell you guys. So in the bead haul, remember I showed you these 18mm, I think they're 18mm cabochons that I bought. This really pretty brown Picasso. Well, guess what? These work with this design. They fit inside of here, just like this bead does. This bead is an 18mm, and so are these cabochons. And I have a picture on my phone that I'm going to show you guys. So here is, this is the same design, it's just the purple, and I made this one first, and then I started working on these, and then I realized I should see if that cabochon fits in there, and it does. So you can also turn this into a ring, and here it is with a better color combination. I don't know about it with this here. If you look in the cabochon, you will see shades of blue and purple, believe it or not. But the ones that I got have more brown than the blue and purple. So here it is with the red Picasso and that other color. And this was the first color combination I had, and I wasn't crazy about it. But that's what it would look like. This cabochon done with this same exact pattern that I'm about to show you. It looks just like that. It would be a really great ring. So if you want to get those cabs too, you can make a ring with the Nib-Bits and the Halfmoon Crescent beads. Okay, so that's something I just wanted to show you guys. Let's do it. Here is the list of materials you will need to make a ring and 3 other components. And by the way, you guys can do whatever you want with these little beaded components. You can do 4 rings, you could do 4 in a necklace, you can use them in a bracelet, whatever you want to do with them. This is just what I've done with them. Hopefully I've inspired you to do something with them. So for the materials, I am using a new beading thread, and as many of you know, I am addicted to fireline, and I decided that it is time for me to try another beading thread. Now, I am still going to use fireline. I just wanted to try something new because I've used the same beading thread ever since I found it. And so I found 1G. It's made by Toho, and I read a lot of good reviews about it, and that's why I wanted to try it. It's really strong. I like to test my thread whenever I get a new thread. I like to pull it as hard as I can and see if I can break it, and I can't break this stuff, but I did notice that it has a slight stretch to it, but that's fine. So I'm going to be using 1G, but you can use 6-pound or 8-pound fireline, and I'm using a size 10 beading needle. This is a tulip beading needle. And you will need 2.5 feet of thread to make this little component. To make the ring, I'm using 5 feet, and I'm hoping it's going to be enough to do the ring band, but we'll see how it goes. So again, 2.5 feet to make just the beaded component, and 5 feet for the ring. I'm also using 4 of these 18mm Czech Nautilus beads. And again, they are from Czech Beads exclusive. I'm also using 24 8mm by 4mm Halfmoon crescents, which are these here. Now it takes 6 to make just one of these. Okay? I'm also using 48 5 by 6mm Nib-Bit beads, and again, these are 2 holes, these are 2 holes. And to make one component, you will need 12 of them, 6 on the top and 6 Nib-Bits on the bottom. You will also need seed beads, and I discovered that for your seed beads, you're going to want to do toho Czech seed beads or 11-0 tohos. I tried doing 11-0 Miyukis for this and it did not work. It's too tight. You can't get the bead in there. They're too small. So either a 10-0 Czech, and if you don't have that, use an 11-0 toho. Tohos and 11-0s are bigger than Miyuki and 11-0s. Different name brand, different sizes, just like clothes. So think of it that way. Now for the ring, I decided to put some 8-0 seed beads in it. I have 8-0 seed beads in this color in the necklace that I'm making for this. But for the ring, I like to do the 8-0s because it just gives it, you know, some texture. Makes it look really cool. If you don't have 8-0s, you don't have to use them. You can just do all 10-0 Czech seed beads or 11-0 toho seed beads in the ring band. So this is a list of materials, and remember I put the list down there in the description bar along with where I got the beads from and everything. So just make sure you look down there. So I am first going to show you how to make this beaded bead component, and then I'll show you how to make that into a ring. So first, I'm using 2.5 feet of thread to make my beaded bead, and I'm going to start by picking up a Nib-Bit, and I'm going to pick it up from the hole that's on the pointed side, not the flat side, but the pointed side. I'm going through that hole first, and then I'm going to pick up 3 11-0 toho seed beads. That's the brand I'm using. This is a matte AB Cobalt, I think it was. And then another Nib-Bit, and again from the same hole, just like that. And again, 3 more seed beads, and my Nib-Bit, 3 more seed beads, and a Nib-Bit bead from the smaller hole I want to pass through it, just like this. So I'm going to slide these down because I've run out of room on my needle, and I'm going to continue this. Okay, so I ended with a Nib-Bit. I have to do 3 seed beads again. I have to do another Nib-Bit, 3 seed beads, another Nib-Bit. I'll slide this down. So now you can see that I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 Nib-Bits, and I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 groups. 5 groups of 3 seed beads in each group. So I need another group of 3 seed beads. So I'm going to have 6 groups, and in each group I have 3 seed beads, okay? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 groups of 3 seed beads and 6 Nib-Bits, just like this. Okay, now what I'm going to do is slide these down, and I'm going to leave a 6-inch tail. So I have a ruler here, and I'm going to take the end of my tail, put it on my ruler. Here is my 6-inch mark, so I'm going to hold it right here at the 6 inches. Slide these beads down. I found it best to do it like this, because if you just pass through them, it's kind of hard to adjust it, so I like to hold it at the 6-inch mark. Now I'm going to pass my needle through all of these seed beads, and I'm probably going to have to do half of them at a time, and you want to make sure that you're passing through all of them, because sometimes you could accidentally skip a seed bead if you're not careful. Okay, so through all of those, just like this. Okay, so now you can see I have this ring here. So I'm going to slide all of these beads to my thumb and index because that's my 6-inch mark. Okay, and now I'm going to measure this again just to make sure because I don't want to run out of thread with my working tail. Let's see. Okay, so it's just a little bit longer. So I'm going to pull this a little bit and adjust it. Okay, now it's just right. So now I'm going to tie a surgeon's knot. So I take my strings. I'm going to take my short string, go over my long string, pull that down one time, and pull this snug. Okay, because now we have this. Now I'm going to do it again, but this time I'm going to go under twice. So under once, twice with the short thread, and pull this down and make sure that your knot is going where you need it to be. Okay, pull that tight. And I actually like to go over and under one more time. Okay. Now, what I'm going to do is take my needle and I'm going to pass back through this hole that I'm coming out of, okay? Just like this, and this is going to pop this knot inside of that bead so it's not seen. Okay, there it went and just popped in. And actually it came out the other side, so I'll use this tail to pull it back in the middle. So now it's in the center of the bead. So now I'm going to take my needle and pass through the same bead but in the next hole, just like this. Okay, so leave this tail here. We will tie that in later. We need this to be strong, and I love to reinforce things so they last forever. Okay, now we're going to work with the Halfmoon beads and toho, no, not toho. These are 11-0 toho. I think these are called nickel. Their color. I love them. I'm going to pick up one 11-0 toho and my Halfmoon crescent bead. Now I laid them down like this, so the rounded side is up and the flat side is at the bottom. I'm going to go through the bottom hole, okay, coming from the right side. I have to pick them up the same way every time so they lay properly. So picking that up, then I'm going to pick up a seed bead, same color, 11-0 toho, and I'm going to pass through the next Nib-Bit. The only problem I've had with this thread is it keeps coming off my needle, and it's because it's really thin. It's a very thin thread. Okay, so now I have this. I'm going to do this again. I'm going to do all the way around. 11-0 seed bead, I'm picking up a crescent bead. I'm going through the bottom hole, right side with the dome facing up. See, just like that. And an 11-0 seed bead, passing through the next Nib-Bit. My tail got caught in here. Okay, so just like that. So you could see that they're domed like that. So the flat side is on the inside. So our bead sits properly in there. Picking up another toho 11-0. My crescent bead. Seed bead. Through the next Nib-Bit. And I'm going to do this all the way around, using up 6 of my Halfmoon beads. That's what I have so far. Picking up another 11-0 toho, my Halfmoon, another 11-0, passing through the Nib-Bit, just like that. I have one left, so I'm going to pick up another 11-0, again, the Halfmoon bead and 11-0, and like I said, you want to make sure you're picking them up in the same direction so they sit properly. Okay, so I'm taking my needle and I'm passing through, I'm coming out of this one, I'm going through the Nib-Bit, through the seed bead, and through the Halfmoon bead because I now need to step up. So that's how I'm stepping up. So laying this flat, you can see that the flat sides of my crescent beads are pointing up. So when I put this bead in here and I pull this tight, these are going to stand up. Okay, and then I bead all around it, and I put my seed beads in the top and the center, and I cinch it closed. but it's going to be a little bit before I could do that because I have to go on with my Nib-Bit before I put my center bead in. Okay, so I'm coming out of this half moon bead here. I'm going to take my needle and pass through the same bead but in the opposite hole. Now make sure you pull this very tight. You don't want this to be loose. And I like to go ahead and stand these up. Okay, and I just sit this down and I leave it on my mat. That's what I try to do, and I work around it and just turn it. So now I'm going to pick up a seed bead, and this time when I pick up my Nib-Bit, I'm going to pick it up from the wide flat end. So from this side. Before I was going through this hole, but now I'm going to go through this hole. Okay, and it doesn't matter which end you go through because it's the same on both sides. Okay, so picking up that, and then another 11-0 toho. So I'm coming out of this half moon bead, and I have to go into the next one right there. So I'll hold it like this so you guys can see. Take the needle, pass through this one, pull it through. Now it's laying like this. Now this is going to flip around until we put the inside in, but basically this is what it's going to look like. So here you can see my ring. When I get that big Nautilus bead in there, these two are going to separate and there's going to be a gap between them. Okay, now I have to do this again all the way around. This is really easy to make. I just love how it looks. It's very simple and easy. So picking up an 11-0 toho, my Nib-Bit from the wide side, and another 11-0, I'm going to pass through the next half moon bead. Just like that. Turn it and do it again. Another 11-0 seed bead. Picking up the Nib-Bit from the wide side, another seed bead, passing through the second hole on the half moon, and pulling my thread through. Again, make sure you keep a nice tension on this. I'm going to pick up another seed bead, my Nib-Bit, another seed bead, going through the second hole on the half moon bead. Again, seed bead, Nib-Bit, seed bead, passing through the second hole on the next half moon bead. One more time, picking up my seed bead, my Nib-Bit from the wide side, and a seed bead. Okay, I'm going to close this up. So I'm coming out of this one. I'm going to go through this bead here, through this 11-0, and through that Nib-Bit, because now I have to step up. Okay, so I'll lay it down and pull my thread through. I'm going to turn this around, pull it tight. Now to put my Nautilus bead in the center, I need to make sure that my Nib-Bit beads are standing up or pointing outward so they're not in the way. Now I'm going to take my Nautilus bead and pop it in there, and now I have to flip them back in. Okay, so now they're in just like this. So now I'm going to pull this tight again, as tight as it can go. I have to take my needle, okay, and I'll zoom in for this to make sure you can see what I'm doing. I'm going to take my needle and pass through the top hole on the Nib-Bit. So I was on the wide hole, and now I'm going to use the top hole. So hold it just like this between your fingers, pull that thread through, and pull it very tight because it wants to loosen up on you. Okay, now I'm just going to turn it like this. I like to leave it on my bead mat as I work, and I'm going to pick up 3 of the 11-0 tohos, and I'm going to go through the next Nib-Bit, just like that. Pull it through, turn it, pick up 3 again, do the next Nib-Bit, pull it tight as you go, because if you don't, that last row we did, it will loosen up and you won't be able to get it tight again. You'll have to take it apart just to, you know, before you started it, and pull it tight, and then you can continue doing it. You don't have to take the whole thing apart. Okay, there's another 3 seed beads. Again, pull this tight, and I'm going to do this all the way around, picking up 3, passing through the next Nib-Bit. So you can see they're starting to close in around the Nautilus bead. I have 3 more to go. 1, 2, 3. And then I'm going to pass through this Nib-Bit and through the seed beads, and I need to reinforce this. I don't know if you realize this or not, but when I first started making this little beaded component, this area where we're at right now, when we first started, has 2 thread paths going through it. So it's very tight, and I need this to be tight to keep that bead in. So I'm going to make a second thread path around this. Okay, I'm going to zoom out now because I feel like I'm too close. So now I'm just going to pick it up and pass my needle through as many beads as I can, making a second thread path. Pull it tight as you go, and you'll be able to see where we started at. I'll show you how. Okay, so if you take your needle and you come in here and you lift up the thread, you could see how many threads are there. There is 1 thread here, so that means I have to go through these seed beads and through this Nib-Bit. Okay. So pulling this tight. I'm going to check again and see how many threads I have here. I want to say this is now 2 threads. Yes, I'm now at 2 threads. So I've gone around a complete 2 times. Now I have to pass through these 3 seed beads so I can tie a knot. I like to tie the knot before the Nib-Bit bead. Okay, so here I am. Now, here's the thing. When we do the ring, we're not going to tie knots here around these edges in these seed beads, okay? In the blue seed beads, we won't be tying knots there. When we do the ring, when we come out of these 3, we're going to add the ring band, okay? So I'm going to show you how to tie this beaded bead off, and then I'll go to the ring and I'll show you how to do the ring. So please, if you're doing the ring, don't tie any knots here in the base, because you won't need them, because we have to do the ring band. So now let's do the knotting. Knotting this is pretty simple. I just take my needle and I go under right here, okay? This is where my thread's exiting out of. I want a knot here. So I'm going under there. I'm making a loop, and I'm going to pass through the loop twice. And you do want to make sure that you pull this really tight before you tie any knots. And I already have, okay? Pull that knot down. And I'm going to take my needle, pass through the Nib-Bit, and through, if I can, 3 seed beads. If it's too tight, do not pass through it, because last night I was making one of these and it was too tight and I passed through it and I broke a Nib-Bit. So I had to take it apart and do it again, and I broke a Nib-Bit. So I'm going to do it again, taking the needle, passing under here, making a loop, passing through it twice, pulling it down, and then through the Nib-Bit and through 3 seed beads if it's not tight. Okay. Now, what I do is I go all the way around tying knots. I do 6 knots, one in front of each Nib-Bit, okay? And then, let's say I'm Xing out of this Nib-Bit, okay? Right here, I've tied all my knots. Then what I do is I take my needle and I pass through the same bead, but the opposite hole, and then I'm on the outer knot edge, and I tie some knots, and I just use it, my thread, pass through there, okay, reinforcing it, you know, making it stronger. And then I take my needle off my thread, I come back to this thread, and I tie knots on this side, just like I did on this side, in front of the Nib-Bits, okay? And I also, if I have enough thread, I'll exit out of the wider side of the Nib-Bit, and I'll go around here, and I'll reinforce that outer edge. So that is how you tie the knots, and now I'm going to show you how to do this in the ring form. And remember, you don't want to tie any knots on the bottom when you do the ring. You just want to be Xing out of 3 seed beads after you pass through it a second time, okay? So now, let's go to the ring. So now I am working on the ring, and in the ring I did 3 different colors in seed beads. I have 2 11-ohs and 1 color of 8-ohs. You don't have to do it like this. You can do all 11-oh tohos or 10-oh czech seed beads, okay? Or you can do 11-ohs in Miyuki. They'll be fine because it's in the ring band. It's this here that you could not do 11-ohs in a Miyuki, the top, because it's too small. It shrinks too small. You can't put that Nautilus bead in there. So, to do the ring band, I went through all of these seed beads and the Nib-Bits twice, okay? So, I'm through here twice, through this bead. So, I went through these 3. So, I'm actually through these 3 times, because if I were to stop here, there's 1 thread path here. So, I have to go through the Nib-Bit and through here. So, there's actually 3 thread paths there, okay? So, I'm coming out of these 3 11-oh toho seed beads. I'm going to pick up my next color, which is this color here, and I'm going to do 4. I tried 3, I felt that it was too narrow, I wanted a wider ring band, and also if I do 4 tohos and 11-ohs, I can do 3 8-ohs. But like I said, you don't have to do 8-ohs if you don't want to. So here's my 4 beads. These are 11-oh tohos. I'm going to pass through these 3 here. Okay, and I found that whenever I do have to pass through these, I sort of go through the Nib-Bit first, and it helps me get into those seed beads, okay? So there I go, I have these, and now I'm going to take my needle and I'm going to pass back through all 4 of these. Okay, just like that. I'm going to sit this down and pull it snug. Now, I could stop and go on and add my next color, which would be this plum 8-oh, but when I do that, I notice that the ring is not laying properly, so I like to pass through it again. So I'm going to take my needle, and like I said before, I kind of go into the Nib-Bit, this hole in the Nib-Bit, and then I turn, and that allows me to go through those 3 11-oh tohos. Okay, and now I'm going to pass through these pale blue ones that I added. Got 1 more there. Okay, and now I'm going to add my 3rd color, which is this 8-oh. So for the 8-ohs, I pick up 3, but for the 11-oh tohos, I only pick up 4. So now I'm going to take my needle and I'm going to pass back through these seed beads again. And I'm having a hard time getting through all 4 of them with this angle. Okay, there's all 4. So passing through those again. Now these are stacking on top of the blue ones, so then I pass through these again. Okay, so now it's a little hard to see, but if you were to look at this, you would see that we have one thread path on this side and two on this side. Now if I, like I said earlier, if I were to continue right now adding my next color, this would pull. You would see a gap in between these. So to fix that, I'm going to go back through these pale blue 11-ohs. Okay, back through them again, and come out the 3 8-ohs. Okay, and now I'm going to add my next color, which is this one here, and I have to pick up 4 of these 11-ohs. I'm going to take my needle, pass through the 8-ohs, pass through these seed beads that I just added. Okay, just like that. Pull this through, and again, see how it's doing that little split right there? To stop it from doing that, I'm going to go back through the 8-ohs. Okay, pull it tight and then back through the last beads I added, those 11-ohs. So it's not going to separate if you go through it a second time. Now I have to pick up my next color, which is that pale blue. Okay, I'm going to go through all 4 of these again, just like that. Okay, and I constantly have to flip this so I could pass through it. And it's a little tricky when you first start out because it's so close to the top of the ring, but once you do a few rows it gets easier to hold. Okay, so again, see how it's doing that split thing? To stop it from doing that, you have to go back another row. Then go through this row again. Hold snug. And there we go. So now I have to add the 8-ohs again to continue my pattern. And again, I have to do 3. So it's the same width as the 11-ohs. So see that there? 3 8-ohs is the same width as 4 11-ohs. Now again, I have to go back through these 8-ohs. Okay, and because it separates, see how it's separating, I have to reinforce it. I'm gonna go back through these again, and then back out the 8-ohs to add the next color. So now I have to add the dark blue, 4 of those. I'm gonna go through this side, through the 11-ohs, and then back down the 8-ohs. And then back through these here and add my next color, which is that pale blue again. So you could do this weave that I'm doing for a bracelet, for an anklet, whatever you want. You could do this here just as a ring band. There's many different things you could do with it. You can use this as a bail. You can make a bail with this weave. If you have a pendant like a donut, you can put this through a donut. It'd be really cute. Okay, now I have to pass back through these 4. And I have to go back through these 2 again to better secure. Okay, my next bead is the 8-oh, so 3 8-ohs. So this is pretty simple. You guys are just going to keep going, repeating this weave until you have it long enough for your ring band, and this ring band does not shrink, so make sure you wrap it around your finger when you think you're getting close to the size you need. see if it fits, because it does not shrink like the Latisse one does. Alright, so keep going doing this ring band, and when you get to the size you need, I'll come back and show you how to finish this off. Just remember to pass those seed beads more than once. So again, there's 2 thread paths on this side, 1 on this side. I'm going to pass through these 8/0s and then through these 11s. Okay, so when I do that, I actually have 3 threads on one side and 2 on the other. But it's pulling the beads tighter together so there's no gaps in between. It looks really nice. So again, keep going doing this until you have it big enough to go around your ring, around your finger I mean, and it meets up on the other side, and I'll show you how to finish it off. So I kept on going, and now I have the length that I need to close my ring, and I'm going to pick up my needle, and as you can see, my thread is Xing out on this side, so I have to go straight down to right here and pass through these 3 11/0s. Okay, just like this. Pull this through, and then I'm going to pull my ring band in. Okay, so you can see there how they're now lining up. And then I have to take my needle, pass through these 8/0s again. My needle's sliding off. Okay, so when I pull it, see that? Now they're touching. I have to pass through again, so I'm going to take my needle, go through these 11s again. Okay, pull it snug. Now they're touching. I'm going to take the needle, go through the 8/0s again. Pull that tight. I'm now going to take my needle and go through the 11/0s one more time, and I'm also going to go through that Nib-Bit bead. Okay, and now I'm going to take the needle and pass through this Nib-Bit and through a seed bead. Just like that. Right now you can go ahead, try it on, make sure it fits. And if it fits, then we're good to go and tie knots. If you need to add a couple more rows, go ahead and do that. And then once you have the rows added, do the same thing here. So we could tie knots. So tying the knots is just like we did before, except we're on this outer edge. So I'm exiting out of this seed bead right there. I'm going to take my needle, go under here, catch that thread, grab my needle, pass through the loop twice, bring this knot down, go through the Halfmoon bead and through the seed bead, and tie another knot. So I just like to tie the knots in between, I like to tie the knots in front of a 2-hole bead so I could pass through the 2-hole bead and pull the knot into it. So I just go around this entire outer edge as far as my thread will take me, tying knots, reinforcing it, and then when I run out of thread I trim it off. And then I take my needle and I put it up here and I tie knots in this just like I did the beaded bead that I made. I tie the knots in between the seed beads and the Nib-Bit beads, and I trim my thread off, and then there we go, we have an all done ring. It's so cute. It's pretty cool. So I'm going to crimp this necklace with you guys. I don't normally do this because it's something that's very simple and easy, and you can find videos for this all over the web. But I get requests to do this. So for this video, I'm going to show you guys how I crimp my necklace. So there are a few things that I like to do that makes it easier. For example, whenever I'm working with bead stringing wire, I never cut it off the spool. I always leave the wire on the spool and I put my beads on it. And the only downfall to doing it this way is sometimes some people like to put their center bead on and then they, put bead on each side, building it up. But for me, what I do is I lay my pattern out on my design board, which I rarely use. I usually do my bead mat. I lay my pattern out on my bead mat, and then I just pick it up from when I would my wire, see how it looks. If I like it, I'll crimp it. If not, I'll take it back off and I'll restring it again. But the point of why I leave it on the spool is because I can pick this end up and my beads don't fall off. And also, I like to use these little bulldog clips to keep my wire from unraveling. I put these on all of my spools. They work great. They're the really teeny tiny clips. I use them all the time. So I have 2 crimps here. And my aunt actually gave me a whole bunch of this tiger tail, which is an older bead stringing wire. It's like one of the first ones that came out, and now there's Soft Flex, Beadsmith has their own, Beadalon, there's all these different ones, but the thing with it is the draping on your piece. Now I am using some larger beads, a lot of glass beads, so I think this is going to drape just fine, so I'm not worried about the number of wires that are in my bead stringing wire. So I'm going to go ahead and crimp this. I have a tube here. Okay, I'm going to slide that down. I already took my, I had a clamshell tip on here. I already took that off. I'm going to take my wire, pass through here. I'm going to pass through my crimp, and I'm going to crimp it. Now, there are some people, beaders, that like to pull this down, okay, crimp the crimp, and then they trim off this wire. And that drives me crazy. I like to have a few inches underneath the beads. Some people say that it comes out, it works their way out, but I've never had that problem. I've never had that problem. The reason why we put a few inches through the beads is because if we screw up, for example, I've done this so many times, I've crimped it, you know, crimped the other end, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I forgot to put in a bead. So what do? I have to take it apart, but I don't have to waste my materials. All I do is I come into my crimp, I get some chain nose pliers, and I smash it like this from the side, break that crimp open, fix my mistake, close it back up, and I don't have to waste any wire. So it's great for restringing. That's one of the things. And also, if this crimp were to break on you, you would probably notice that it was messed up before your necklace fall off, because this here would get really, you know, a big loop before your beads would fall off. So that's why I like to leave that little tail on. So I'm gonna go ahead and crimp this. I'm gonna slide this down. I have my crimpers here, and one side looks like lips to me, and the other side is like a lemon, an oval shaped. So first you want to do the side that is oval. That's what I do. Okay, and you want to make sure that your wires are parallel to each other. First I do the oval side, then I do the side that looks like lips. Okay, and see how my wires are side by side? And now what I have to do is fold it. So I come back to the oval side and I turn this on its side and I fold that crimp. Now sometimes I find that it's not tight enough, so I'll come in with my chain nose pliers and I'll just smash that crimp again. And I do feel like I get a better crimp when I do this. Okay, and if you want, you can come in here and put a crimp cover on that, but sometimes I really don't feel like crimp covers are all that necessary. Actually, I find them very argumentative. I always have a problem with those darn crimp covers. They just don't close right for me. And they always seem to tarnish. Okay, so I'm just going to feed this through my necklace. Pass through here. Okay, so there's that. Now I have to slide these beads down. There's my cutters. Okay, I'm going to cut this wire, put my crimp tube on. I got my chain on there. I'm going to pass this wire through my crimp and through some beads. Now sometimes, I think I'm going to come out that, let's see, how far can I get? Maybe if I can get through, okay, right there is good. Okay, so now to get the tension just right on this, I come in here, okay, and I grab this one here. I hold this with my chain nose pliers, and I pull my tail, okay, it brings that down. Now I don't want to pull this too tight. I do need this to be movable. I don't want it to be real stiff. I think it's just right. Okay, I'm going to make this loop a little bit bigger. Now I'm going to come in here and crimp it. So first I'm going to do the oval side, and then the side that looks like lips, and then I'm going to fold it with this side. And like I told you guys, I like to come in with my chain nose and smash it a little bit more. These crimps I'm using are kind of large. Okay. And then I just trim off my tail. And there we go. It's all done. It's so pretty. So this is it. I hope you guys check out Czech Beads exclusive, because that's where I got the beads from to make these really cool components. They're so awesome. I'm really happy that my idea actually worked out, because it doesn't always work out, but it did this time. So this is it. I hope you guys enjoyed this tutorial. Please like this video, leave me a comment, subscribe if you want to see more of my videos, and like me on Facebook. And don't forget to share pictures of the jewelry made from my videos on my Facebook page, and follow me on Pinterest. Thanks for watching.